Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first edition of Grincher's Deck Tech. Today, I'd like to go through my current favorite ladder list, the one that I've been using in S rank to marginal results. I got into S rank, and I'm currently number 4 with it, and that's at about 7 wins, no losses in S rank. So, not the largest sample size, but we did play this deck from about Diamond 2 into S rank, all of it on stream, and with over a 60% win rate, I'd say about. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'd like to go over it with you guys and offer some of my thoughts on what makes the deck strong and what are some considerations for different playstyles and different meta techs. So as you can see, we choose Casava because this is a Shadow Nova deck. Currently, the deck is running 2 Bloodtear Alchemists, 2 Grasp of Agony, 3 Demonic Lure, 3 Ephemeral Shrouds, 3 Healing Mystic, 3 Primus Fist, 3 Diolthus, 3 Primus Shieldmaster, 3 Shadow Sister Kalino, 2 Dancing Blades, 2 Rites of the Undervault, 2 Sunset Paragon, 2 Zenrui, the Blightspawn, 3 Shadow Nova, and 3 Spectral Revenants. Now, the first thing you may be drawn to are that there's no draw outside of Rite of the Undervault. And that is because if you look at our curve, it starts a little high, meaning that we have a large number of low drop minions, namely Bloodtear, Ephemeral Healing Mystic, and Primus. So we have lots of 1s and 2s, so we have a higher chance of not skipping our early game, because it is the most important part about playing any type of Shadow Nova deck, or any control deck really, is ensuring that you smoothly transition through each stage of the game. And the best way to do that is to start from turn 1. So not skipping turn 1 is very important, or at least having turn 2 plays to draw into. So I have gone for 11 2 drops, so to speak, with 2 of them being Bloodtear Alchemist, and even Ephemeral Shroud constitutes as a 2 drop in our decisions. Now, the most powerful part of the deck is that we have 9 4 drops. That lets us have a very strong turn 2 if we went first and had an unanswered 2 drop, or turn 2 going second. So that's one of the most important parts to card retention. That means keeping cards in your hand throughout the game, is playing like 1 card a turn. So with with 1 card draw and 4 drops, you tend to only play 1 card each turn as you match the numbers of your card with the mana cost. So with this many 4 drops and 5 drops, we're more than likely not going to be making a whole lot of plays each turn, and will thus not run out of options before we start slamming our 7 mana minions and Shadow Novas. So that said, I've opted for Diolthus, Primus Shieldmaster, and Shadow Sister Kalino. Diolthus and Primus Shieldmaster are both great right now because they have Provoke, which is very good against a lot of aggro decks, which is like Magmar, Face, Songhai. Does a good job of rooting enemies in place when we play Shadow Nova. So if they get provoked and we play a Shadow Nova, they are much less likely to be able to move off the creep when they are provoked. So keeping them rooted is much desirable for us. Now, Kalino herself, and in the replay that I'm going to go over with you guys today, you'll see just how important she is and how strong she is to this type of deck, to making sure that we have the life total to stay alive throughout the entire course of the game. So she's just very powerful, but she is prone to being Zenrui'd, and so is our Tombstone from Diolthus. So we are running our own Zenrui to counter Zenrui, or to steal them back. And also, it's really strong in the mirror match, or against Songhai for like Lantern Foxes, and can just be a great tempo play overall if you don't have anything better to do. So, that said, I'm running Sunset Paragon because it is very good against Kara, which is super strong right now. I say she's tier 1, probably just on par with, like, a little stronger than Cassava right now because they have a lot better matchups all around the table. Even though Cassava is one of the, like, I'd say she's the second strongest available right now, just due to her consistency. With Rite of the Undervault, I aim to have at least one of these, or a Shadow Nova or a Revenant in my hand by turn 6, because Rite of the Undervault, with 1 mana cards like Grasp of Agony and Blood Tear Alchemist, or even 2 mana cards and 7 mana, I can refill my entire hand and then hopefully play a card and not run and not mill, because milling, in my opinion, is undesirable in our deck because of the odds of milling very important cards like Shadow Nova. So if we were to lose something like Primus Fist, it wouldn't be so bad, but because we have very important cards to draw into, I would rather just keep that in mind. Dancing Blades is strong against mid-range decks like Fae and Kara, so Vanar. That's also strong against any sort of deck that isn't heavily control. Like, for example, it's not the best against Tegeti right now, but it's still very decent against 2 drops, 3 drops, 4 drops, and can be quite the tempo play on turn 5 if they played into it. So keeping that as one of our options is always nice. So like I said, with Sunset Paragon, it answers Mechas or Kara, but I'm also running Grasp of Agony because it's very strong against like Wall Fae. Even with Scorn right now in the meta, I've tested Scorn in this deck, and overall I didn't really like it because of the damage it deals to yourself. It can be nice if you play it with Kalino, but anytime I take damage in this deck or weaken my minions, I feel like I'm not really doing myself any favors and would rather just rely on my Bloodborne spell, Blood Tears, Lures, and Grasp of Agony for board control, as well as our 5 drops. And if we need to deal with Swarm late in the game, hopefully we're just killing them with Shadow Nova and Revenants, or we're surviving through it with Shadow Sister Kalino, because, for example, Shadow Sister Kalino prevents Jack's True Sight damage if they are not buffed, so they have to focus down the Shadow Sister. Oh, that's not true at all. It prevents like wall surround is what I meant to say. little nerves. Got some nerves going on. I never really do recordings, so. That said, Demonic Lures and Ephemeral Shrouds also deal with a lot of things. Demonic Lure is very important against Linar. Very important against any type of deck like Tegeti, or any type of card like Tegeti that you just really can't deal with efficiently. Primus Fist is there to help deal with Tegeti, etc. And that's how I like to view my decks in general right now, is what are the problem cards at the early stages in the game for every deck, and cards like Tegeti come to mind, Iron Cliff come to mind, and my solutions to those is how I build my deck. So we've incorporated those thoughts into this deck as well as our win condition. So with that said, some choices to consider when you're thinking about more control Cassava would be cards like Spectral Blade. Now, I prefer more board control because Spectral Blade, it doesn't put anything on the board. It only does it's like pseudo control. It will answer things that attack you with 4 HP or less, but it is also weak to Blood Tear Alchemist, which is very popular in at least 50% of the decks you'll face on the ladder. If you're playing against any Kara deck, I guarantee you're playing against Blood Tear Alchemist, which is super strong in Kara because of the buff potential. So with the and Song and Spell High as well, they just ping artifacts like they're nothing. So I feel that Spectral Blade could be good, but in my opinion right now it's just not worth running versus the minions slots that it would take up, and the minions are really, they do all the work for us. because you don't want to be pushing a lot of damage with your general. You want to be backing away with your general and staying alive so you can just win with Shadow Nova. That's the goal. Other considerations are cards like Abyssal Juggernaut. It's also a respectable 4-drop. It develops Shadow Nova Tile, or Shadow Creep. It's pretty decent. I wouldn't necessarily say it's better than any of these, and that's my opinion. I find that Primus Shieldmaster does a lot more for me as a 4-drop, just because in the late game it's a decent top deck to prevent damage, while Abyssal Juggernaut is actually a card that you don't really want to see if you are under duress, like someone's cornering you in and you need to stave off just a couple more minutes. So I would say that Primus Shieldmaster trumps Juggernaut in most cases, even though as an on-curve play, Juggernaut is probably a little stronger. So, and by on-curve I mean right on 4 mana, just because of its attack value. However, its defense value does make it a little weaker. Dark Transformation is also a great card right now. Breath of the Unborn, I'm not sure if that would be better than Scorn. I think Scorn would be better than Breath of the Unborn because they hit just about all the same targets. So if you really wanted some AoE removal, Scorn would probably be the way to go, just because it develops a body, and it also is playable on turn 2 if you're going first, and you can answer their 2-drop. Or going second, just like that, with a 2-drop on the tile. So you can do a lot of things with Scorn, but Breath of the Unborn I'm not quite sold on. Whereas Dark Transformation, if you really just want some hard removal, like you're always facing Lionar, facing Pandora Elders, that kind of thing, that's very strong. It's really strong against Magmar in particular because it doesn't transform like the card says, but it does remove the egg because it spawns a Wraithling for you on it. So very nice card. I have just opted for pseudo removal like Zenrui and Dancing Blades, with Sunset Paragon hitting most of the problem targets that I usually need to hard remove. Sometimes people recommend Reaper of the Nine Moons and Vorpal Reaver. I find Vorpal Reaver too slow right now. In a Vanar meta, there's too much Dispel. Hailstone Prison, Chromatic Cold, Aspect of the Fox, all just 2 mana tops, and your 6 mana card is done for. And the same goes for Reaper of the Nine Moons in my opinion. I would rather play a card that is not weak to Dispel, and because of these have opening gambits, they already had their effect happen. Each one of these except for Deal With Us. Typically I'll get a little bit of healing out of Shadow Sister when it comes out. But Reaper of the Nine Moons and Vorpal Reaver in my opinion are just too slow and not worth the risk or the tempo loss against Vanar, and certainly against Magmar Egmorph is worth considering as well. So some other cards I've tried in the past, Jaxi. I know other players run Jaxi in their Cassava decks, but I just think it's too weak against Blood Tear and Scorn right now. They're really popular cards. I don't think that Jaxi has a place right now. Void Pulse is also worth a consideration in fast Cassava. So if you were to cut back some of this 5 mana curve and play a 3rd right and then add more 1-drops in your deck, you would look to play Rite of the Undervault on 6 mana, draw a 1-drop or a 1-mana card and play it, and you've made your turn very efficient. And just like you emptied your hand all the way up to that point. So that's also worth consideration. Shiro, I've seen it. I'm not exactly sold on it in this deck because I'm not really looking to like flood. I don't like playing multiple 2-drops if I don't have to, because I don't like to go low on cards and be forced to play an early right and possibly mill a card, which is the danger of playing too many cards too fast. So Shiro kind of encourages that because you can get a lot of value out of it, and the punish is not worth the play, I'd say, in the long run. Rustcrawler is worth it if you're seeing just an absolute ton of artifacts, but otherwise we have, like I said, we have Blood Tear to help with those types of things. So I like to have universal answers to many problems versus one card to a specific problem in my deck. Also Loremaster, not that popular right now in like mid-range Abyss. I'd say it's more of a burn card, but I have seen people run it on the off chance of getting an extra Shadow Nova, which probably isn't necessary. Scorn, worth looking at, but in our deck, we're not really looking to give our opponent any answers because we are playing the control. So we're not going to run a Blaze Hound, we're not going to run Spelljammer. Sojourner, I don't like it because it runs the risk of being Zenrui'd, and I don't want to have to fight for my own Sojourner back with a Zenrui play, because then they could just Zenrui another Shadow Sister. Most of the time, if your opponent's playing Zenrui, they're running multiples, and you kind of got to pick your battles, right? So, with that said, other cards, Lightbender, maybe. I don't really like it in Kasava, just because it may hit my own tiles or hit some of the minions. I might be forced to dispel some of the minions in my deck that I don't want dispelled, like Diolthus or Kalino. So that would suck. And Shadow Sister Lycian, I don't like the RNG when I'm running a deck that looks to be very consistent. So, with that said, I think that covers just about all the other cards that we would want to play. Slower cards like Pandora, because our 7-drops are very live when they come into my hand, meaning if I play them, they will do something. Revenant has Rush, Shadow Nova immediately impacts the board. I don't really want to play a slower 7-drop, just because the alternative is already much stronger. And that is how this deck thrives in the late game. So, that said, I think that covers most of the picks for the deck, and let's go check out our replay of the deck in action. This was actually a very difficult game for me to win, but I do want to show this deck in action for you guys. So let me just grab the replay. Against Panda JJ. I believe this is the game. Yeah. Alright. So replaces here. It's not looking good for us from the start. In this scenario, in this matchup in particular, strong cards that come to mind are cards that have opening gambit. So like Dancing Blades is really strong because they probably play a lot of 2/3s or 3/3s or the same card themselves, like Dancing Blades, or they maybe play Diolthus, but it's kind of rare. Most of the time they'll be playing a lot of tempo cards. So having Dancing Blades in my hand is good, but I don't really need both the Revenants if I already have a Right in my hand. But even that's probably going to be looked to be replaced because I want to curve. I want to get 2 drops, curve into 4, possibly curve into 5, and then I start hard replacing back for the 7s. So you get the big stuff away and then you want it back. Going second, it's kind of okay to keep a Revenant if you have a curve, but most of the time you just want to have lots of options in your hand right away. So right away, going second, we do have a turn 1 play. It's not the best one. It's not looking that great for us. Crystal Wisp, that's kind of worrisome for us. I replaced the Right of the Undervault because I don't see myself playing it anytime soon. With playing 1 card a turn, now I want to talk about that real quick. 1 card a turn will just kind of be flowing in, 1 card in, 1 card out kind of thing. So a Right would probably not see play, and I would look for like a Demonic Lure or some other type of card like a Grasp of Agony that would be more live and reactive early on in the game. I opted for the Blood Tier Alchemist because I thought perhaps I could eliminate the Crystal Wisp, and if he has a Hearth Sister, I could dispel the Crystal Wisp and deny the Mana Acceleration. But the Blood Tier Alchemist both cards are weak to Hearth Sister. I don't see him Chromatic Colding this. Maybe he's running his own Blood Tier Alchemist, and that's the only downside, but I do get the Dispel effect. And I never want to accelerate my opponent's mana with the Crystal Wisp, so unfortunately I get undermined, and he just plays a Scorn, and my Crystal Wisp is going to die. I replace one of the Diolthus because I see myself playing Diolthus into Dancing Blades, which is the most likely scenario. So Diolthus probably wasn't going to happen. I would rather just play the Dancing Blades and keep replacing 4 cards like Shadow Nova to keep myself strong in the late game, which we are coming up to already pretty quickly. I'll be on 5 mana, then 6 mana, and 7 mana. The downside is our curve deck is very weak to these Tempo Vannar strategies with Hailstone Prison, and you can see the difficulties start from turn 1 or turn 2. Like, we lost our 1-drop. Now we're losing our Diolthus for free. Literally just 2 mana, delete it from the game. Doesn't even go to the graveyard. I can't help but play into Warbird this turn, but I will do what I can to fight for board control. I think I step up. I want to step up to threaten the mana tile if he can't remove this, because mana tiles allow access to playing multiple cards each turn, even if I have this one down here. But I anticipate that he just has his first Cryogenesis and Bloodborne spell, and that's exactly what happens. He just plays Blazehound, mills a Rite of the Undervault, which is okay. That's actually the best card for him to mill since I already have a full hand, and I'm not looking to play that anytime soon. I still have one in the deck for late game. So, unfortunately, has the Cryo, has the Bloodborne spell, Warbird, gets another free kill practically. Paid nothing for it, and I am looking down on HP, which is super dangerous in this matchup. So, knowing that I am weak to Zenrui, if Shadow Sister Kalino gets Zenrui'd, I really would feel very far behind. So, what I want to do is put as much distance between myself and my Kalino and the enemy's general as possible. He could still reach it with the 2-drop by placing it here or down here and then playing Zenrui, but I force him to have both those cards if that were to be the case. Now, however, this is the first weird sign to me. A Dreamgazer and an Aethermaster. I'm thinking White Widow? Or is this a combo deck? Because usually, back in the day when you played like Spirit of the Wild, or cards like Trilucidator, Aethermaster wasn't a uncommon tech for that case. So I try my best to figure out what he's playing, and then the Flameblood comes out, and I start to suspect it is some sort of Blood Tora deck, and I only suspect that because in the tournament on Saturday, before this, I had ran into a player, Mr. Enderman, very, very smart player. I think he actually pioneered the whole strategy, as he beat me 2-0 with a Fey. It was a Fey Vannar Blood Tora Spirit of the Wild deck. Now, I didn't suspect that exact combo right away, but I was definitely leaning on some sort of a combo deck that involved aggro, and so I started to think I have to do everything I can to help myself stay alive here. And I realized with this mana, I could actually clear the whole board and heal a whole bunch. And that's exactly what I do. You play the Kalino back here. I don't really need to replace because every card in my hand is very, very powerful. Shadow Nova's too slow, but I do have a Grasp of Agony, and all 3 of these minions are lined up. And with a Demonic Lure, I can simply put the Blazehound right next to them, use the Grasp of Agony on the Dreamgazer, and with the Kalino being played, that fitting into my mana, I can remove everything on the board by trading the Healing Mystic into the Flameblood and heal for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe. Put myself at 14. Actually, I think I end up at 13. We'll find out. But there's nothing to replace. Once again, I try to just do my best to put the Shadow Sister away from the general just to avoid any type of like a Snowpiercer removal. It's not exactly safe to Zenrui, but it's the best I could do. And if a Zenrui is played here, at least I'm running away from the Shadow Sister, or I can still Zenrui it back safely and use the Abyssal Scar and ping and clear the Zenrui. So with this play in mind, moving everything on the board is very, very strong for us right now. He gets a Snow Chaser back, which puts him back on 4 cards, but we're back at 14 life, which is exactly what we wanted to have. And we've now swung the game completely back in our favor. We draw another Kalino, which looks very good, because if you play 2 Kalino, your opponent can literally do nothing. Now this turn, I'm not sure what he was trying to do. Whether he was trying to separate me from my Kalino, bait me going into hitting something. I'm not entirely sure what the goal was, but I think he just steps away and plays a Snow Chaser, which tells me if you are only playing 1 mana on 8 mana, which is exactly what he does. He's trying to bait like a Shadow Nova. He's trying to bait some type of removal on this minion. I can tell, you know what I mean? Like, and I say the only way I could potentially die on this next turn is the Blood Tora combo that I thought about. And it could involve Flame Blood, it could involve anything, but with Kalino, it would require him to be at a very... with Kalino, it would require him to have a lot of damage, as he's going to heal me for 2 more. I'm going to be at 16. But I do put him at 3 HP. So that means that his Blood Tora costs 3 mana. And I think that's got to be it. That's the only way. I played around it. I said it on stream when I was doing it. And that's exactly what happens here. It's quite amazing how much work this Kalino put in this game, but that's exactly why it's so powerful in this deck. And safe positioning behind our Kalino and being mindful of what blows you out with like an opponent's Zenrui on your Kalino, keeping your own Zenrui in hand for that is the best you can do. We do see that he actually has a Hearth Sister, a Blood Tora, and a Spirit of the Wild, which is 15 damage, or that's actually 17 damage total with his general attack. However, because Kalino heals me when his units take damage, I actually outlive the total damage, and he is at 1 HP, and I have a Revenant behind, which is, you know, it's pretty lucky. But we started to suspect that as soon as he played the Aether Master, and it pulled out in the end. Our strategy was it paid off. So that's just one way that you can come back with a deck like this from a very oppressive start from your opponent. Like we lost the Ulthas, we lost our one drop right away. Everything was just going to heck. But with careful consideration of what your opponent is doing and good tech, you can always find a way back into the game. Unless they just draw like a god, and in that case, you know, hope that they tip you. But that's it, guys. I'll leave a deck link below. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see more like this, leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.